Just like that, huh?
Just like that.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Pat Steadman. I'm the state senator for District 31. And I was just up at the House District 8 meeting up in Whittier. They meet the same time you do. So I thought I'd go there first to change things up. Not knowing what you've talked about, the legislature's back in session. And it's off to an interesting start. I'm back on the Joint Budget Committee again this year, so I'm going to be very involved in being one of the responsible adults in the room that tries to move things forward. I'm optimistic about our budget this year. The economy's good, so good in fact we're going to be paying Tabor refunds. I think that's the biggest issue really that everyone in the legislature should be talking about is the Tabor amendment still right for Colorado? And if you've been reading the newspaper and listening to the things the governor hasn't said, you know this is a conversation we need to have. It's a new world at the legislature this year. The House is now still under Democratic control, but the Senate is now Republican majority. So I'm no longer the chair of the committee. I have a new friend who has that responsibility. Actually, he's an old friend. We've been on the Joint Budget Committee together now. This is our 5th year. So we work really well together. I'm confident the budget process is going to go good. But let me tell you about some other things that are going on at the Capitol right now. Everybody's introducing bills, and there's lots of new bills in the hopper. And I don't know, maybe this is how the Republicans felt 2 years ago, but I'm looking at the things they're introducing, and I'm just shaking my head. We've got the personhood issue back again. We've got school vouchers. We've got a tax on public employee pensions. We have bills to roll back all of the gun safety legislation that was passed 2 years ago. But they haven't stopped there. The bills they're doing to stop criminal background checks on gun sales, it doesn't just roll back what we did in 2013, expanding those to private sales, internet sales, yard sales, and garage sales, and all those kinds of things. No, in the process of wiping out those requirements for background checks, they're also going to reopen the gun show loophole. Because the gun show loophole was closed by voters in the year 2000 with an initiative saying that even if you're not a licensed firearms dealer, if you're selling guns at a gun show on a card table, you still have to have background checks, and you need to involve a federally licensed firearms dealer to help perform those background checks for your transactions. Well, they're rolling the background checks back to the bare minimum, which reopens the gun show loophole. It's just amazing how, I think, out of touch with reality, out of touch with Colorado voters, some of the bills that we're seeing introduced so far this year are. But my prediction is in the next 4 or 5 weeks, there's going to be lots of skirmishes and flare-ups and partisan disputes. I'm going to get a couple bills that I'm working on killed in committee. I think the House is going to be killing Republican bills in committee. And maybe when we get a little deeper into the session, by the time March rolls around and it's time to start really working on the budget, the Budget Committee has a budget to propose to the legislature, some of those partisan skirmishes will have fallen by the wayside, and maybe there'll be some responsible adults in the room that want to have some real conversations about how to move Colorado forward, how to make sure our economy stays on track and is actually working for everyone and not just a few. Those are the things I think we really need to talk about. And ultimately, Tabor in the crosshairs is one of the themes of this year's session. I'd be happy to talk or answer any questions. I don't want to take more time than I'm allotted, and I can always take time.
2 minutes.
Elliot.
What is your opinion, or what is the opinion on the constitutionality of Tabor as it being going to a Republican form of government at the state level?
There's a lawsuit that's challenging the Tabor amendment on that grounds, and actually there's an appeal pending at the U.S. Supreme Court right now, and Monday morning, or actually I guess Monday's a holiday, so Tuesday morning could be the morning when we find out whether the Supreme Court's going to take up that case. The issue is by taking away the power from the legislature to enact new taxes or increase existing taxes, by saying the voters have to be advised and have to consent with an election, And so you have to wait till November to even get an answer to the question. By taking away the ability of the legislature to raise revenue, we've actually fundamentally altered what the U.S. Constitution says should be the form of government in every state, which is a Republican form of government with elected representatives making decisions on behalf of their constituents. By taking that power away, the people you elect really can't do the job you elected them to do. That's the issue of the lawsuit. It's a rather novel theory. There's never been a major U.S. Supreme Court case on this issue at all. This Republican form of government and what it means to empower your elected representatives to do the job for you. The trial court here, the federal court in Denver, ruled that the case could go forward, that the legislators who were plaintiffs in the case had standing, that the issues that were presented were constitutional issues that needed to be decided, that the state appealed that to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, trying to dismiss the case, saying these plaintiffs lack standing, these issues can't be decided by judges, they're political issues that should be decided by voters and legislators. The 10th Circuit refused to dismiss the case and said it should proceed to trial. And so now the state is appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court, trying to get the case dismissed before it's ever even really heard. This is a case of really important constitutional significance, and it's a case that could go on for many, many years, although if the Supreme Court takes it up, they could also cut it short this spring. So we'll have to wait and see. I thought the 10th Circuit's opinion was really well reasoned and pretty solid, but it is a novel theory, and you can really see the Roberts Supreme Court not wanting to get involved in undoing what voters have done and giving more power to government officials and less power to voters. I mean, I worry about what's going to happen at the Supreme Court.
Just a quick follow-on, because we're the only one with table, right? I mean,
Yes.
Colorado's the only place where we say the electeds have, or the people have to decide whether there's a tax increase or not. Nobody else has floated that lead balloon.
Somebody else had, do I have time for one more?
One more.
I want to follow up on that. Is anybody talking about reinstating something like referendum C? Meanwhile?
Yeah, there is a lot of talk on that. I can tell you one of the bills that I'm working on this year is looking at the Tabor problems that the new marijuana taxes have, Proposition AA. Voters in 2012 said, legalize it, regulate it, and tax it. And they told the legislature, pass regulations, propose taxes. We did that. We put Prop AA on the ballot. Voters that passed it the very next November said, yes, tax it. And so voters have been pretty clear twice they want it taxed. And they want, if marijuana, we all know marijuana's been sold in this state for, who knows how many decades. But up until now, there's never been taxation. And I think voters, as part of their rationale for legalization, said we would like to see some public revenue, do some public good off of the sale of this substance in our state. Tabor is going to come in and force us to refund the entire first-year collection of the new marijuana taxes unless we put it to a vote. And so I've got a proposal that's sort of like Ref C. It's going to be place a ballot question before voters this November. May we retain the marijuana taxes that you wanted us to have in place and spend them on the things you wanted us to spend it on? I think that's sort of self-evident. The issue is going to pass itself. And right now I have really strong bipartisan support to put that issue on the question for voters. That is my short-term goal as far as your question on is there a big move on Tabor. This Proposition AA problem is only the first year of the new marijuana taxes. After the first year, Tabor lets it go on its own. But in the first year, Tabor's forcing this refund. So this is our only chance to fix this problem. And that's the one Tabor thing I think the legislature must deal with this year. I actually think it's a nice entree into a larger conversation about what's wrong with Tabor. And I'm hopeful that if we can tackle the Proposition AA Tabor problem this year, it sets the table for a larger Tabor conversation next year. And if you've been reading the Post, if you've been reading the blogs, this is the biggest issue confronting the legislature. I thought the editorial in the Post yesterday that was sort of going after the governor a little bit for not being more out in front of this issue, not taking more of a leadership role, was right on target. I was glad to see it, and feet to the fire is sort of my attitude on that issue, building our case for what I hope we do in 2016.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still waiting on Ed, so we're going to switch things around a little bit. I'm going to ask Owen to come up and bring a couple people up front with him.
Drainage information.